Hi everyone, welcome to TriEssence martial art channel, another episode of Style Deconstructed. We're going to carry on with Yang-style Taichi, and today we're going to look at something called 进步斑斓锤. Right, so this move, if you don't know, it's one of the most famous first striking moves in Taichi. Taichi doesn't have a lot of first strikes. It prefers to use open palm most of the time, but this is one of the most famous first strikes. And 进步斑斓锤, right? 进步 means to take a step forward, and then 斑斓锤, basically 斑斓refers to two blocking moves, and 锤 refers to the punch. We'll get more about that later on. So as always, first talk about some bad examples or incorrect examples in my opinion, based on again Occam's razor and the master key principle. And funny enough, that when I'm looking through the YouTube this time, I didn't actually find interpretation that is clearly way off or crazy. I think that's because this move is kind of self-explanatory, right? You can't get too wrong when the move is literally a punch. You always just know you're gonna have to punch someone. Right? Unlike a brushing knee or single whoop, where the move is kind of abstract enough to have very strange interpretation. But banlan zhui is the one where actually everybody comes on the same page. You block somebody and then you punch it, right? So that part is actually pretty straightforward. However, there's still some things I would like to comment on some of these videos. So let's look at the first one. So again, I wouldn't say his interpretation is wrong, but it is too situational, right? So he's basically allowing someone to grab the wrist, and then you turn the wrist, you parry, and then you punch. If somebody do grab your wrist, this can work. Although I'd argue that the moment you do this, he's gonna be able to react, and the punch is not gonna actually happen. But other than that, it is plausible. However, it's very situational. I don't know why everybody thinks that people grab your wrist. I mean, maybe they do, but when I grab somebody's wrist in a fight, I don't just passively grab their wrist. I'm gonna be like pulling him over. So if you want to counter a wrist grab, you can't counter a wrist grab from a passive, neutral stance. You're gonna be expecting him to be dragging your arm or something else, right? No one's gonna do that and give you enough time to counter. And again, right, most of the time people don't fight and grab your wrist. So the chance of you being able to apply this technique very unlikely. So again, this is it's the same trend of people who basically is trying to look at the move and then tie it in with a very specifically unique situation, and that's a very bad way to interpret any type of martial art moves in general. Look at the next video. Okay, so this one again, I wouldn't say is wrong, his interpretation, although a lot of it is kind of unrelated to banlan zhui. But the problem here, right, also illustrates a big portion of the Taichi community is that they don't actually think about how to get into the punch, right? They emphasize too much on the punch itself. But the problem is, what's really hard in a fight is to actually get to the punch. People have two arms, right? In China, you call it 手是两扇门, right? Arms are like two doors. And these arms are not going to let you just punch it, and they're not pushovers. So in this video, you can see that he can't just assume these things are flimsy, and he just kind of get to where he wants and hit someone. And the other guy kind of just let him do it. I know this is a demonstration, so it's not a fight. He doesn't have to fight back completely. But still, if you're doing a demo, you're not showing how you can overcome stress and objection from the other person. It doesn't really give you an objective view on how likely it is to apply this technique. So I'm not saying his interpretation is wrong, but I'm just saying he doesn't display the required mechanics to actually pull off those moves, unless he's fighting a flimsy straw man, not an actual person with strength and the will to fight back. Look at the third example.
Quindi ancora 1, 2, 3. Ancora 1, 2, 3.
So this guy is pretty much the correct interpretation technique-wise, but again his mechanics is really bad. And and it's kind of when you're doing like that, it makes no difference from any external martial art like in Mantis. Those have moves where you kind of control the elbow and then you punch the guy. So it doesn't differentiate Tai Chi from other external martial arts. And even though that the mechanic can be sort of somewhat correct, with that kind of poor body mechanic, a person can easily overpower you and basically, make him unable to put this move off. Now, of course, no move is fail-proof. It's always going to be a measurement between how much you can do and how much other guy can do. But when it comes to Tai Chi, there are mechanics that are in place that allow you to have the edge, and those videos don't really explore that. They're basically doing Tai Chi like an external martial art. So now that we've seen a few examples of problem that you commonly would see when you're exploring the application of Ban Lan Chui, let's basically look at how it is interpreted in my lineage. So let's look at the move itself, right? So Ban Lan Chui usually starts from low Shi Ao Gu, so from here, and then it basically start over here. First goes around, hand goes there, and then the punch. And the punch, some people do it like a lower punch, some people can do like a higher punch to the chest. We'll talk more about that, in a bit. So Ban refers to this action, okay? Lan refers to this action, and obviously this is Chui, this is the punch itself. So Ban Lan naturally there's basically two moves that are used to block or to get the opponent's hand out of the way. And that's why this is very straightforward, right? So Ban is pretty much a move like this, and then Lan is like that. But obviously, you're not going to have time to do these kind of shaky power generations in a fight. So from this, oh yes, and there's another version that some people do where it's kind of reverse. You go from here, you actually go this way. So there are basically two ways. One is drawing a circle this way, one drawing a circle that way. But fundamentally, you can understand, you can kind of see this as two ways of doing the same move. But fundamentally, it is the same principle that they're using, right? So there's no major difference between these two interpretations or these two ways of doing this technique. So now let's talk about the move itself. So naturally, right, it should become easy for you to see. I don't even need to really explain this. That when somebody punches you, you basically block this out of the way. This kind of also hits out of the way, and then you punch him. So that part is straightforward. Or if he's punching with that hand, the same thing. You can get this out of the way, and then this one will counter for that hand, and then you punch him. Or he's punching this side first. You get this out of the way, and then that out of the way, and then you punch him. So you can see you can pretty much do whatever. And again, with the master key's concept, I don't need to be specifically on what he's doing. If he's just standing in front of me, I'm standing in front of him, I can just basically blindly do this, and then hit him. And the way the hands are situated, I'm covering for almost anything that can happen in this range. So I don't have to be specific on what he's doing and counter specifically. I'm pretty general on those two moves. But what's important, like I keep saying, is the mechanic. If you're not the mechanic, it's not going to work, right? And the first mechanic is that if I'm doing Ban, if I touch him, I need to be able to not only knock his arm out of the way, but drag his back balance. So the correct power mechanic behind Ban will be something like this. Right? You feel that difference. As opposed to just a regular thing like that without the body.
Yep.
It's much more heavy. So that's the first thing. I need to do that. Okay? And secondly, avoid that work on the other hand as well, right? So if this is the hand, again, right, Ban is like this. It upsets his balance. And Lan, similarly, so if I don't do Ban, I just do Lan. So if I'm already here, then it goes like that. See how he get pulled forward. So I'm not simply pushing him that way, because if I push him that way, sure it can work. Like in Wing Chun, right, I can get there and then hit him. But in Tai Chi, it's more about moving his balance. So I don't wanna. If I push him like this, center of guy is gonna step back, and then I'm gonna miss the opportunity. So I don't want him to actually run away. I want him, remember, 引击落空, I want to lure him in. So when I do Lan, it's actually here. I want to grab him here so I can punch him without him getting away. So that force actually invites you forward. It doesn't repel you back. So that's the most important thing about this that people don't tend to talk about, is that the relaxed thinking force and other mechanics involved makes the initial move heavy enough that when I grab him, he's gonna come for it, and that's when I hit him. And that's what makes this move work. If you don't have this mechanic quality, if you just have the move itself, it's probably not gonna work, because he's either gonna step back, you're gonna pull his hand back, or something's gonna happen. You're not gonna be able to trap him. You need that kind of quality to trap him and hit him. Obviously, the punch itself, not too much need to be said, right? I mean, it's easy for people to punch somebody and hurt him. It's harder for somebody to open up the arms to hit him. So in this case, the more it should be more focused on how you're gonna open up the defense rather than how you're gonna hit it. But obviously, hitting also kind of important. You know, if you hit in a very poor mechanic, it's not gonna be as damaging. You know, so generally, you know, the one way to hit the solar plexus, the other way is the wrist, and lastly, right, if you aim for the higher one, it's the chest. And the chest, obviously, you aim for the center where there's not much muscle. There's muscle on the side, center is a piece of bone, so you want to punch over there. If you apply enough force, it's actually quite sore, and you can also knock the air out of somebody's lung. So that's as far as the strike goes. But as I said, it's harder to land the strike than to actually, you know, make the strike do some damage. Anyone with sufficient amount of strength can hit somebody hard with a punch, but you don't always can find the opportunity to hit the person, which is why Banlan is very important, and Chui less so, right, compared to the previous two. If we were to look at the other way, actually very similar. You know, you can either cut this way and then that way, punch, or you can be cutting this way and then that way and then punch. So it's the same thing, just from the other side. In case, you know, if I'm standing like this, I'll obviously do balance trade this way. But if I'm, you know, somebody standing this way, well, you can do balance trade with the left hand. But if someone's going to do it with the right hand, then it will be here. Okay. But essentially, if you still need to be able to have that dragging heaviness, and then this one as well, that you can disrupt his balance, and then you hit him. So essentially, it's the quality of the intersection that's more important than the punch itself. And that's pretty much how balance trade works. And here's another side note that I want to talk about, is that, you know, you might be wondering, or, you know, it might have come across your mind that in Chinese martial arts, right, we have a lot of midsection punches. I mean, sure, you have them in boxing as well, but they're more like, you know, changing levels. So you punch something, you lower down and you hit there. Or it's like, you know, the body shot where you do it like an uppercut into the body. But they don't have like a linear body shot like we do in martial art. And this isn't just, you know, for Taichi, right? Taichi we have Shangbu Banlan Chui. Xingyi we have the famous Beng Quan. And in fact, you know, people like Guo Yunshen is famous for just using Beng Quan to beat everybody in encounters. In Wu Xing Tong Bei we have Zuan Quan or Zhong Quan, the mid punch, which goes like this. So you see that it's a common occurrence that in Chinese martial arts, especially internal martial arts, we favor like a mid-section punch that goes below the chest somewhat, you know, and above the groin, rather than punching the face. And it's weird because if I'm engaging in a punch like this, I'm not protecting my face, right? I mean, it actually makes more sense when you fight like this to hit this because I can punch in, and I'm also protecting myself. But if I'm engaging a punch like this, and often they don't punch with this hand protecting the face. It's like, in this case, you know, it's like here. So it's actually quite strange if you think from a modern day context why they want to punch the midsection and like that. And the answer for that is actually because the head is much better guarded, so it's easier to get away with the body. And without gloves, the body is actually quite substantial, right? If you have gloves on, it's harder to hurt with the body hit, especially a linear one. That's why they usually use it as a distraction. You're gonna hit the face. But assuming that people is always protecting their face, even in traditional martial arts, since we don't have our hands up, it's just that if I take us up and hit the face, it's just easier to see than if I'm here and hitting the body. It makes it harder for someone to see. So it's easier to sneak in and attack. And again, if we combine this with the dueling efficacy that we find in Beijing, it makes sense. If I'm having just one move, one chance, right, 3 moves, one combo, then if I aim for the face, it's not as far, or it's not as conserved in motion as if I'm here and hitting on the lower section. It's just harder for him to react. And obviously, if I'm the one that needs to start the attack, not him, then I don't really have to worry about him hitting me in the face. I can literally stand here, move in, and then hit him there. So it just fits the context of a traditional Chinese dueling better. And even in a real fighting scenario, if we are having a issue and our hand are down here, it's just easier to hit him like this without him even seeing. I can look him in the eye and hit him. The face though, however, the moment I bring it up, he can kind of see it because it gets into his peripheral. But a low hit like this, it doesn't get in the peripheral. But obviously, in Banlan Chui, you have like 2 starting moves, so it doesn't exactly fit. But it's not to say that you can't stand here and just do a Banlan Chui without doing the first 2 moves, right? You can just do the last punch. But just in general, why internal martial art favors the type of mid-section punch is just that it's harder to see and easier to kind of sneak under the person's vision. And that's why we do them a lot in traditional martial arts, but you don't see this type of thing in modern combat sports. Alright, so hope you found this video interesting and also have a better understanding on application of Banlan Chui. If you do, then do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and if you can support me on Patreon, that would be greatly appreciated. I have a whole array of videos on Patreon that explores the internal mechanic in a scientific manner and use it to understand Yichuan, Taichi, and Wuxing Tongbei. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. And if you have any questions on past content or suggestions for future content, always feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel, and I'll see you next time.